What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Eastern Current. Tonight it's going to be just me and Cameron chit-chatting on here about what we have in our boat and our tackle bags in during the springtime. So we've both gone out to our boats this afternoon and pulled together a lot of the stuff that we've been fishing the past couple weeks and that we're going to be fishing coming the next couple weeks. And he's at his house. I'm at my house. We're talking through Skype on Ecamm Live, so we're recording this separately, and it's just a cool way that we can continue to create content together, but still stay 6 feet apart. Technically, we're like 6 miles apart right now, so I think we're pretty safe. But just a quick reminder, if you do love this podcast, it is a huge help if you go support us on Patreon. We put a lot of time and effort into this, and we have a decent amount of money invested in this, and so you can do $5 a month or $10 a month or a custom donation of $1 a month or $100,000 a month. If you give us $100,000 a month, I will fish you every single day of the month for the rest of your life. So I'm just kidding. But yeah, check out Patreon, check out our Insider Facebook group. You can hop on there and chat with other people that enjoy listening to this podcast. All we really want to do with this is create a fishing community, a fishing group of people that like to fish the East Coast and like to talk about redfish, snook, flounder, trout, tarpon, all the inshore fish, nearshore fish. That's what we focus on. So I'm going to stop hammering down, and I don't even need to introduce y'all, but here's Cameron. What's up, man?
Not much.
You've been pretty slammed with work lately, haven't you?
Been very slammed with work, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not so much fishing going on.
Not so much fishing.
Yeah, trying to sneak out when I can.
I hear ya. I just realized when I went out to grab some stuff out of the tackle box, and God, it keeps sounding like I'm tooting over here, but my arms are sliding on the table. It's like, but I realized I have like 10 mud minnows in my live well that have been there for like a week that are dead. I didn't open it. I'm terrified to open it.
Oh my gosh!
So we'll see. We'll see what happens when I might record my live
Your
well
reaction.
My reaction, yeah, reactionary live well opening. But well, cool. So you fished this morning, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
You had a little luck.
I didn't. Yeah, I had a little luck. I didn't have a ton of time, so I just grabbed some mud minnows and caught a couple and left because I had to be back by 8:30. So there was no messing around.
Heck yeah. I was, as you know, idling so I just got the power head replaced on my bigger boat, and I was idling it down from Hampstead back to Wrightsville Beach. I'm using the Slough Point boat ramp to put in, and I thought with this, ramp closure, we were going to see a lot less fishing pressure. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting up in the tower coming on the waterway, and the tide was high, and every spot that I knew there were redfish in, I could see boats in. Almost every spot. And two of them had 4 boats on like a small school. Or one of them had 4 boats on a small school, another one had 2 boats. And so I'm just like, golly, these fish are I thought they were going to get a little break, but I don't think they are.
You would think so, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Like even this morning, I left my dock at 6. Mm-hmm. When I had been fishing for 10 minutes and someone came in and was fishing on the same spot. So I'm like, yeah, like when this all first started happening, I was like, man, it's going to be way less pressure. And just, I think people have more time on their hands now and are like, well, what better way to get away than go out and go fishing? So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad people are enjoying the water. But I'm frustrated that the fish aren't getting a break. It's just selfishness, really. It's just selfish. It's my conservation, I want them to myself.
That's right.
But, well, cool. Well, let's start going through, I guess we'll call this like our tackle box talk.
Spring tackle?
Spring tackle box
Spring
talk.
tackle box?
Yeah, let's start with you. We'll just go bait for bait. Let's start with, on the surface and work our way down to the bottom. You want to?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right.
So topwater wise, as you guys probably know because we've talked about this a little bit, this is a she-dog.
Oh, yeah.
Mirror makes she-dog,
yep,
I believe.
Mirror
makes she-dog. I absolutely love this hard bait. It's like, I think I just have a lot of confidence in it because I've caught a lot of fish on it, but if you can hear it, it's a higher pitch.
So loud.
It's super loud. And you would think, oh my God, that's almost like too abrasive. But for whatever reason, I think it just pisses them off.
God, the stripers were crushing it the other day too.
The stripers were crushing it. Yeah, I just kind of threw that out there willy-nilly. And hoping that it would do as good as it does for redfish, and it seemed to work pretty good.
Heck yeah.
And even this spring, with some schools that have been like a little bit skittish. I know we've talked about like I'm gonna go back in my words on working a top water.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and I'm glad you're sharing this. This is cool.
yeah. So, I was fishing one school, and like they were eating really good, and I was with my wife, and she was using live bait, just so we could catch some. I was like, I'm gonna throw top water for a second, and I just happened to have a sheet dog on, and I threw it out there, and they're in deep water.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, if they're in deep water, probably not gonna
Deep
get
being how deep was it?
I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 feet.
4 or 5 feet. Okay, sweet.
Maybe even more, maybe 6 feet.
Okay.
They were like coming up from out of nowhere and just boiling on it, like 3 of them at a time, boiling on it.
So fun.
And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep working it like I normally do for redfish, and like it just wasn't working. It wouldn't commit. And so what I did exactly what I said not to do, which is when I saw a fish come up and boil on it,
Mm-hmm.
I would do like what we were doing with those stripers, like stop the top water completely. And they would like be circling underneath it, and I'd give it a couple little jerks, and they'd get a little closer, and then I'd give it one little jerk, and they would hit it when it was completely dead still.
Really, that's crazy.
I
Yeah,
think
you
I
just
caught-
don't hear that from redfish very very much.
No, and I'm wondering if it was because this was a couple weeks ago, so the water was, I don't know, maybe mid 60s.
Yeah.
So they weren't like really fired up on the top water, but they were more fired up on it when I worked it more sporadically. And so maybe they just, being a little more hesitant, working it a little more slowly and erratic seemed to set them off.
Seem to get the bite. So that just proves like never stick to just one retrieve on any
Yeah.
bait.
And
Change
that's
it up.
Yeah, and like in reading how the fish are reacting to it, right?
Yeah.
Because like if you're like I could tell when I was just walking the dog, and one would come up and boil on it, he would stop following it.
Yeah.
If I just kept it at the same rhythm. But if I would slow it down and just keep it there, he would just stick around it, like he was thinking about eating it. And then I'd give it one little jerk, and he'd like come up and kind of circle it again, and then he'd kind of go away, and then I'd give it a couple more jerks, and he'd come back, and eventually he just got frustrated with it, I guess.
That's awesome. That's so fun. I can't say I've ever really had, been able to watch a redfish follow a plug that long. I've seen it with trout.
Yeah.
And I've never had it with redfish. I mean, I've seen them follow a plug, but never, like, as soon as I, like, stop it or do something different, I feel like they're gone. But
Yeah.
that's awesome that you were able to read that,
It was,
change it up, and it paid off.
Yeah, it was nice, and it was easier to read the fish because the water was so clear.
Yeah.
That like when they would come up, you could see them, bright as day. You could read them so much easier than if it's, summertime and the water's really murky and you can't really tell if there's a fish following it or not unless you see it wake.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about my my top waters, and so I just brought a handful in here, but I'm shy one size, so I like this time of year trout fishing, and I usually change up. So tangled up. Change up. I make these hooks larger and take the middle one out. Learned that from Ryan Christofferson. But this is a full-size spook. Let me bring it back here so you can see it. There we go. So 3 hooks on a head and spook. That's a full-size spook. Then you've got like a one knocker that's a little bit smaller than this. That's 2 hooks. I really like the one knocker as well. I don't have any of those with me. And then the Spook Junior. Here's a custom one that I painted. I haven't named this color, but maybe the Midnight Bandit. Sounds like a good color name for it. I can't get it to focus. There we go. It's pink with purple and then black. I really just trade around between the different spook sizes. If I'm red fishing, usually a one knocker. If I'm having a little bit of trouble getting them to bite, I'll switch up to that Spook Junior. And then with trout, it's either like a full-size spook. Well, I fish all those as well. All the different sizes are great. If I'm going to just throw one size all day, though, it's probably going to be a one knocker, which I don't have in the box here. And this is another cool top water that I've really liked in the summer as it warms up a little bit more, but it's called the Skitter V by Rapala. It's like a skitter walk, but it's got this V belly on it, and you can get these really wide, cadence back and forth with as you walk it. You don't want to work it quite as fast, I've found, but you get some really big cuts. So you can. It's nice for trout because you can walk it really in one spot really well. It'll sit, and move forward very little. So this probably would have been a great topwater for those fish you were talking about because you could have kind of kept it in one spot, Cameron, for a little while.
Yeah, that's cool. I've never even heard of those.
Yeah, they got them in intercoastal, the Skitter Vs, and not a lot of people fish them. But when I got turned on to these, and I'd seen them, but down in Louisiana, Dave and Ralph from iStrike, when they were fishing with me one time down there, brought a couple of these, left them with me. We caught some redfish on them. The one thing about them is on big redfish, they've got some pretty flexible hooks. So up in your hardware, it doesn't hurt. But those are mine. Here's a Skitter Walk, super beat up chartreuse Skitter Walk. Chartreuse is a. Well, we didn't even talk about that. What colors do you like, Cameron, for topwater this time of year?
I like. I really like pink. Like I have this one. That's kind of pink and clearish silver.
Yeah.
On the side, I really like that.
I call
color.
that clover.
Yeah, that works. And I really like pink, and then I really like ones with just silver bellies.
Okay.
In chartreuse.
Sweet.
Are probably my favorites. And then maybe super early in the morning, like a black.
Yeah. You ever throw any bone colored topwaters, like a off-white?
I have a couple bone color ones. I don't throw them as much as the other ones.
Yeah.
So I know that they work. I just don't throw them as much.
Sweet.
Oh, and one quick pro tip.
Yeah, let's hear it. Oh yeah, your little pro tip's awesome.
If you ever get frustrated with all your treble hooks getting like totally tangled in your tackle box, like mine used to. Totally tangled. You can get these little. Can you see that, Jen?
Yeah, I can see it.
You can get these little hair rubber bands from CVS, and you just wrap it around these two hooks at the bottom, and literally they don't tangle at all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just a pain I don't put them back on when I'm in the boat. Yeah, I just cut them off with my pliers and then throw them back in the box. And then when I'm feeling really productive, I'll go back and put rubber bands on again.
I need to do that. Honestly, I need to buy some. I'm going to talk about this real quick for that reason. Some more of these tackle boxes because this thing's badass. It's the new Plano Edge series. I've got another one here that just extremely waterproof. I held one of these under the water for quite a while the other day in my bathtub. I've actually did a video of it, like a review video that's going to come out, and I didn't get any water in there, probably for like 3 minutes. But so these new Plano Edge hard bait boxes, and so I put these in here. It's been on my boat for a couple days, and this is going to be my negative review. It has shot a few of the MirrOlures out of the thing. See how it's a little mixed up? Mm-hmm. But overall, it holds all your baits down into this. It looks like AstroTurf almost, really big AstroTurf. But you can keep all your hard baits super organized. Hooks aren't tangled up. I feel like a topwater would be a little like all these larger baits I've got in here have slid out a little bit more, so it might not be great for topwaters. Maybe they'll make a larger one for it, but it works great for hard baits.
Small hard baits.
Yes, like even my larger like full size MirrOlures are kind of sliding out of here. But now that I've got them all tucked back into bed, I'll show you how it works. So you can just keep everything super organized and sorted in this. This is the Plano Edge crankbait box, I think is what they call it, crankbait catcher. And that way, I think one of the big problems with these is they sit in a pile and the water drips off through all of them in your tackle box and you get all rusty. But like this, everything drips to the bottom, and it's got what they are calling rust resistor, I think. It's water wick, dry lock seal. Yeah, or restrictor is what it's called. And so they've got these restrictor tabs in there that pull all the humidity out.
Oh, that's nice.
So I'm tempted to honestly like throw some old jig heads and crap in here and put some salt water in there and see how well it does. But yeah, these Plano boxes are sweet. So sorry, what were you saying?
There's I don't do this, but someone I fish with has done this. If you ever buy something that has like one of those little pads in it for like moisture, if you put that in your fly box or in your tackle bag, it supposedly it helps with rust.
Yeah, I've ordered. You can order a whole big bag of them off Amazon, like 200 of them for like $11, I think. I think I might be the person you're talking about. I started doing that last year, and it didn't seem like it helped. I mean, I still got some rust at the end of the season, but Typically what happens is my mirror lure box goes in my boat hatch in about 2 months and sits there all summer, and I don't even really touch a mirror lure. And I open it up in the fall, and every one of them's rusted. So I'm excited to see how this helps out. I probably should throw some of those other things on top of this and see if it keeps it.
Because I have these, which are pretty common, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
And I haven't done the water test on them, but I mean they're fairly waterproof. But like you said, I will probably change out the hooks on these once a year on all these.
Yeah.
But like I put one topwater in there after I've used it, and it seems like that whole row
is rusted.
At some point is all rusted.
Yeah.
So maybe those little pads would help.
Yeah, I think that it's worth a try for sure. I mean, you'd have to truly run a test on it. Like put some water in one with some of the moisture wicking stuff in there, and then same tackle box with another one and test it. Maybe that's something I'll do. That'd be a good video, is to like just test out a few tackle boxes, their waterproofness, and like how well they keep stuff from rusting.
Yeah.
But another tackle box, while we're talking about tackle boxes, this company's awesome. So it's called, I guess you pronounce it Groove or Gruv, Gruv. And it helps in the same way of just keeping all your jigs separated. I'll move it back. Is that in focus there a little bit more?
Yeah, that's good.
And so you can sort out all your jigs in here. I've got 2 of these now. And it's a rubber. And these whole rubber things, like if this bottom row was to get torn up, I could take that whole one out, order another one, and pop it in there. But your jig heads just press through these little gaps, and so it just holds everything real organized. I've really liked it. I think there's probably some other companies that make them, but I've had this for over a year now, and it's been really durable. And then so mirror lures. This time of year, let me talk a little bit real quick. Do you have any mirror lures you want to talk about? Any subsurface hard baits?
No.
Okay. Really, there's just one color that. All right. There's one bait that should be talked about. I haven't been fishing it, but I fished with Ben the other day, and I think it's a twitch and wrap. It looks like a mirror lure by Rapala. It comes with single J hooks. But definitely need to switch it out to trebles. Ben hooked 3 really big fish on it the day we were fishing together and pulled every single one of them off on the single hooks.
Really?
Yeah. And that was like enough to know, all right, it definitely needs treble. So then we were both being so lazy, Ben wouldn't change it. And I'm like, all right, give me your freaking plug. And I took some trebles off one of my mirror lures and put it on there. But the color I really like, if I were to just going to ever throw one color mirror lure, it would be this rainbow trout here. So it's like got an olive back, pink on the side. It's got some like broken foil flash underneath the main case of the body. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those, and then a few other colors. A bunch of pinks. I like the pinks. Mardi Gras is another great color. The Yozuri 3DS Minnow, you've heard us talk a lot about that with the weight strips on the bottom. Another great little bait to have around. I mean, I think don't give up on the trout. Like everyone's so gung-ho on the redfish right now because it's that time of year. There's a lot of trout around. We had a strong fall, and if you can find the trout, they are chewing, and there's usually a bunch of them together. So start to look near your fall spots, like where you were catching them good early fall. Start looking around there, exploring the creek mouths, and just up in the creeks a little bit of where you were catching them. But yeah, so you want to take away another bait that you've been throwing this spring?
Sure.
Or going to throw this spring?
Yeah, I guess I'll get into some soft baits.
Some soft baits.
Which one should I start with? So this is one I like, especially this color.
Yep.
It's kind of like I don't know what you call it, like a flesh color.
Shark flesh is what I call it.
Yeah, with green on the bottom, or chartreuse. I mean, really, if we're talking redfish, I think they're fairly not so picky. I think it's more so the action, and I really like just paddle tails this time of year. I mean, if you can get in front of them, generally they're going to eat it pretty well. If it's shallow, obviously I throw a lighter jig head. And ever since I started using these Ice Strike jig heads, I can't use anything else.
Yeah, the hookup ratio is incredible.
I know.
Do you like the traditional jig head by them better, or do you like the Texas Eye better?
You know what? I have a Texas Eye here, but I haven't thrown this thing a ton.
Yeah.
I know you had some good videos of you catching some fish with these.
I do love the Texas Eye.
Yeah, this is a bait I haven't used a ton of, but I'm really looking forward to using it, especially maybe like in the grass, around oyster beds. I'm just excited to use this bait. I think it'll be good.
For sure. I think there's so many applications for the Texas Eye, but what I really like about the Texas Eye is that articulation on it. And so throwing it with a Z-Man or any soft plastic that floats, but I haven't found one that's better than a Z-Man. If you have, let me know. And throwing it when I'm sight fishing to fish in shallower water, because you throw it and then that whole bait's going to float up on that articulated piece on that jig head, and you can just barely move it, and you get a lot of movement out of the bait. And so when you're fishing like belly crawlers or fish that are really shallow, just having that and being able to just barely jiggle it in front of them and get a lot of movement, and that bait's going to stand up, and they're going to see it a lot better. And not that you can't fish it like a normal jig head or swim it or anything like that, but the ability to be able to wiggle a little bit, to fish it like a Ned rig, I think is really, really cool. I think you'll like it for that this summer.
Yeah. I think one thing that's important with these too is just rigging them right. Yeah. And you have another video I think that you made where you show how to rig these, because it's a little bit just kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's confusing. You're like, wait, how do I get the head on here? Like with this,
right?
Yeah.
And you'll know when you have it right, but like one thing you just want to make sure is that it's like it lays flat. Yeah. Because if it's got like an indentation and it's like this, it's not going to swim right.
Exactly. Good word, Cameron. Good word. Trying to look and see if there's any different jig heads in here. Nope.
Yeah, I pretty much have all Ice Strike jig heads in different weights and stuff, but they do make a couple different ones. Like this weedless one. Can you see that metal bar on top?
Yes.
All right.
The weedless eye.
Yeah, I haven't thrown this one that much, especially in the grass. But I think this thing would do awesome. I mean, it's like super weedless.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I mean that guard is really it's almost fairly firm, which I'd be interested to see like what the hookup ratio is.
I think any sort of an aggressive bite, you're going to be fine.
We'll push that down. Oh yeah. And even so, like I'm just feeling it right now. It seems like you could kind of bend this thing to make it give it a little more give. Yeah. Oh yeah, you definitely can. So that would be something I'd be interested to try a little definitely more of in the grass. And then just the traditional weedless on a jerk shad. I really like jerk shads in the grass. I feel like they just do better for some reason.
You can kind of get those quick little cuts back and forth.
Yeah, you can get the quick little cuts and like, I don't know. They just seem to be a little more aggressive, and you can kind of get it in their face, and they seem to like it.
Yeah. That's a sexy looking little bait right there.
Yeah, for super clear water, I think this would be a great bait.
Definitely.
And these, I can't remember who makes these hooks, but they come in like super lightweight.
I think that's a Gamakatsu. I could be wrong. I think it is though.
That sounds right. But these, like, you can bury the hook in the top a little bit, and it'll be like completely weedless if you're still catching grass. Or you can just let it lay flat. And some of these jerk shads and other soft plastics have a groove on the top where the hook just kind of lays in.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah, if I'm throwing that like on a flood tide in the grass, that's what I'm doing, tucking that top piece in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll still work great even if it's not tucked in, is what I found. Like, if you're fishing open water with it or whatnot. And the cool thing about a jerk shad, man, is you can get like a walk the dog motion underwater with a soft plastic. So you can cover the water real well, get real quick darty action, let it fall. I fish some jerk shads here, but when I go down and fish with my buddy Adam, or my buddy Hansen, or anybody down in the lower Florida area, South Florida, man, like for snook, tarpon, the redfish down there, they're almost all throwing fluke style soft plastic baits, like that quick dart and let it fall, and then dart and let it fall. Seems to really, really get fish fired up. So speaking about heads, so I just got a bunch of stuff in from Ice Strike. And one thing that I want to talk about that I feel like is going to be killer for trout in the winter, but also for redfish in the summer, are these Ned locks that they're making for these Ned rig hooks. I wish I had another camera angle so I could show this to you. But so this hook sits flat like this. So when you throw it with a Z-Man on it, it's going to land like this, so it's sticking straight up. This is a bass bait, and so Z-Man actually makes a bunch of really short little baits for this. But if you put a trout trick on this, it's going to sit just like this on the bottom every time it hits the bottom with the tail sticking straight up. So you can shake it and wiggle it and stuff. I mean, sight fishing redfish with a trout trick and this thing is going to be deadly. I haven't done it, but that's the whole reason I got these. I got them for wintertime trout.
I'm surprised there's no eyes on that thing.
I know. They need to put a big eye on this end, but they're making it for Z-Man, I believe. Okay. And this little mold that they've got for this little bait keeper is killer. It's got like a ton of little grooves in it. You can't really see it. But go check these out on the Ice Strike website. I think sight fishing redfish with a trout trick and these Ned rig heads is going to be next level. And they're lighter, so you need a lighter rod to throw them. But if you're like, really precise casting, light tackle, finesse fishing for these belly crawlers and tailors, on mud banks and mud flats, I think it's going to be a great bait.
That reminds me of. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
That reminds me of, you made me get these a while ago when we were bass fishing.
Uh-huh.
I gotta imagine that they would be really good for redfish too. It's these guys.
Oh, yeah. The, God, what is that called again?
Slanted head, so it sits like this.
Yeah, it's called a, golly. I'll think of it and I'll say it.
I've had this in my tackle box forever, and I'm like, I need to throw that for redfish. It's gotta be killer, because I mean, even if you hold it still, it's sitting off the bottom like this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with the Z-Man on it. That's the cool thing about these. The Elastec is that it floats, and it gives you this whole new way to present baits on the bottom. Mm-hmm. Like a Z-Man paddle tail on that, just slow rolling it.
Yeah, if there's a little current, it's going to already have movement.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be killer. And like slow rolling it and then stopping it, like the little minnow tips over a little bit and is like looking down on the bottom. It's going to be killer. This right here, I can't show y'all, but it's some prototypes from Ice Strike. So very soon we'll be doing some videos of those. I'll show those to you later, Cameron. Some really sick stuff I'm excited about. Here are some more Redfish Eyes, some lighter trout eyes. But this... We'll talk about both of these. If you're fishing fiddler crabs for anything, these jail baits, definitely pick some up from Ice Strike. They're really, really cool. You can rig a live fiddler crab on here with a rubber band, and it's got 2 hooks on it. I just don't think there's going to be a better hookup ratio for sheep's head on fiddler crabs.
Sheep's head are notorious bait stealers.
Oh my gosh, they're so good. And you think they're the sea bass. They're good at letting you think they're little sea bass.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a 15-pound sheep's head every time. The other bait that I've started fishing due to my buddy Elias, and I've become buddies, and we're actually having him on the podcast soon, is bottom sweeper jig. And these are the bottom sweeper jigs here. It's like just a short jig head, really short shank hook, but for fishing mud crabs, larger crabs that you can't fish on those Ice Strike jig heads, man, these things are killer. They fish the same way, really short shank. You're going to feel those sheep's head bites really well. They come in a lot of different weights and different colors, but another great option when you're fishing black drum or sheep's head vertically. So these you want to fish, both the sheep's head jigs, the jail baits, and these bottom sweeper jigs, you want to fish them vertically, like right under the boat. You don't want to cast it out and let it sit there. You can. There's also another great jig, First Flight Lures, that makes another jig that's kind of like this. The only thing I don't like about his is the hook articulates, and it's not locked in. I feel like you might not feel quite as much with that. But check out Bottom Sweeper. Check out Ice Strike. All right. You got it, Cameron?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the other 2 I have are just pretty standard, like just a jig head with a diesel minnow on it.
Yep.
I do like this color a lot. I'm running fairly low.
What color is that again? Is that Bad Shad? No.
Yeah,
that is Bad Shad?
It is Bad Shad. It's black on the top and kind of gray on the bottom.
Okay. I have so much trouble. I think so. I have so much trouble keeping up with colors.
I mean, something like this just doesn't seem to fail that much if you're throwing it to redfish.
Yeah.
And then another color that I really like in the grass, speaking of flood tide fishing, is this color Fluke. I don't know if you can see it, but it's
like a baby bass color almost.
Yeah, it's kind of green on the top and like an off pink on the bottom.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet. So here's another bait that I've got a bunch from Elias, a guy that I fish with a good bit now. And these are his Mackinaw heads. So he does a lot of vertical jigging. He made these for albacore. It's a really thin, soft plastic bait. Let's see if I can get into this. On a jig head style. So you keep this head. You can change out the bait on there, and this spring we've already caught a bunch of albies on it. What I like about this bait though, and the fact that it's a single hook, the albies eat this really thin profile, is in the springtime a lot of times you'll be out in the ocean looking for albies, but also this time of year you can catch redfish right in the surf, and you want a heavier jig head so you can get some distance. And you don't want to go through like an epoxy jig to redfish in the surf with a treble hook. Like it's not going to fish well. You might get them to eat it, but this is just more versatile in the ocean for a small bait. Like you can catch albacore on this. You can catch bluefish, Spanish, bonita. We've caught bonita on this year. Redfish in the surf, redfish jigging, gray trout. I mean, it's just a really, really versatile soft plastic bait to have tied on. As where like an epoxy jig, you're more limited to just fishing albies on the surface. So finding something that you can, if you're slipping out in the ocean, that you can be a little more versatile with is pretty big.
That's cool. I've never seen that bait before.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of packs. He gave us some, so I'll get you some packs of it. It's a cool one. When the albies were crushing it, man, the albies were eating the mess out of it. So, and they were eating little tiny baits. They were being real finicky, and they were eating that really well.
It's hard to tell how big that thing is on the camera. How much bigger is it than an epoxy jig?
The plastic itself is probably another inch. I mean, they make different size epoxy jigs, but the size you and I throw a lot, I think, is 3 inch. I would say this is about 4 inches, 5 inches. But the cool thing is, too, I mean, you could trim it down if you needed to. It's just like a little forked tail, a little flip, but you could just take it and cut it. I mean, those albies, it's really just a reactionary bite. But it's crazy how picky those suckers can get this time of year and in the fall. Like, it could be thousands of them smashing the surface, and you could throw 5 jigs into it, like 5 people at a time, and nobody hooks up. I mean, they get keyed in on some stuff. So finding some baits that they'll eat well is big. But I'll get you some packs of these. I got a bunch of packs of these.
Cool.
All right, back to you. You got anything else?
Well, I got some fluorocarbon, and then we can go over rod setup if you want.
I'm going to run real quick through a few more baits, and then we'll do that. Other thing, these bugs jigs, I've been throwing them a lot. These little light tackle bugs jigs, we had him on. Redfish really like these. You do need a lighter rod, like throwing these with a medium fast. You need a medium light rod for sure to throw these little jigs for the most part to get good distance on them. The trout thumper I've still yet to throw, but it's a really cool little swim bait style, tide bait. Let's slide down here. Here's my jig box. So I do keep in my skiff. I do keep a box of casting jigs because when it's nice, the other day I had my skiff 6 miles off catching albies, and which I've never done before, and we were jigging bonita on it. So the big Hmx jig, pretty standard casting. I hate casting these big Hmx jigs. They're great for jigging vertically, but they skip. The flat-sided jig like this, they skip out of the top of the water when you're retrieving for albies way too much. I mean, they'll eat it, but a thinner, more rounded jig for retrieving real quickly works way better than this. I was pretty I did not like unimpressed with the way it retrieved. But it's more made for jigging bonita, so it's great for that. Fishing on the surface isn't great.
Do you have any of those epoxy jigs you could show?
Yes, I do on a rod right here.
Those things have always been killer for me for false albacore.
Oh, they're great, and they're a great bait when they're spooky too. I needed to rig up a bait cam.
Hold it a little bit lower. Okay, there you go.
There you go. And they're seeing this other camera. They're not seeing your camera.
Oh, okay.
So I've got the other camera set up, but it's a lighter jig. It's got a foil on the inside, and it's actually epoxy poured into a mold. So you get it looks very bait fish like in the water.
Mm-hmm. The color I've had, I just have bought more of, but have had really good luck on is the pink.
Oh, the pink! I've never even thrown the pink epoxy jig. You like that one a lot?
Yeah,
pink's a great color for the bonita and albies. It seems like.
Yeah.
That's what I've had a lot of luck jigging the bonita with is a pink big Hmx jig lately this spring. Last stuff I want to talk about. Y'all have heard me talk about these a lot, but the 5-inch diesel minnows are a great bait for trout this time of year. They're aggressive. A lot of times you're still going to get smaller fish to eat this, but you might limit the 12, 13-inch fish aren't going to eat it, and the big fish will still crush it. Another color I really like is the Golden Brim Little Boss by Saltwater Assassin. These are great. The Little Boss bait's is a really strong bait. It's got a real flat paddle tail. You get a lot of action. The whole body's ribbed. It moves a lot of water. Fish can feel it. I just did a whole video on these, the Minnows or Minnow Z and the Scented Pogies. A little bit shorter baits, so they're both 3-inch baits. This little Pogies bait, it was crushing it on the jetty and on the wall before everybody found out about this fish. They were eating the crap out of this. So I'm not afraid to talk about it now because there's about 100 boats on it every day. And if you don't want me to talk about it, I can edit it out right here, Cameron. You want me to edit it out?
No, I don't care.
It's hard to even get a spot there anymore. But those shorter baits, I talked about this in a video. As these young finger mullets start migrating back in, and these smaller peanut pogies, a smaller bait sometimes does pretty good because those fish, like the mullet in the early summer, late spring, are really little, really tiny little mullet.
Yeah.
So fishing a smaller bait can a lot of times help out.
I think that's when, especially that bad shad color is really good. Because, I mean, this color looks just like the little mullet.
Oh, yeah, especially in, like, slightly tainted water. Slightly tinted water is, it looks really, really good. So let's, what fluorocarbon do you like to fish?
I started buying this stuff a long time ago, and I've just always liked it. It hasn't broken very much, and I swear it's a little bit clearer. It's this Yozuri. They call it HD carbon. I like 15-pound, pretty much for redfish, trout. Yeah, pretty much everything. It's called Disappearing Pink, which is, I don't know. It seems pretty dang clear in the water.
That plays off of like what they say where red's the first color to disappear underwater. I think is why they do that pink colored line and the red colored line.
I think you're right. And although you don't get a ton of it, like you can get a lot cheaper fluorocarbon and a lot more, but this stuff seems to do really good. And the spool it comes in makes it really easy. So like you just leave a little tag end off of it, and it just stays in place. It's pretty tight on the line, so you just pull it out and don't ever have like spool problems, or very rarely have I had it like sink in there and I have had to go get it.
Yeah.
So that saves time.
I think that's one of the biggest things you pay for in leader is like a good spool design. Some of these smaller, or big companies, but these smaller leader spools where you might get 50 yards or something like that. You're paying a lot of times the fluorocarbon, yes, but also just that a good spool design. I know Intercoastal Angler is going to be carrying this. I don't know if they have it in right now, but AFCO has come out with leader, and it's been in the making for a long time. They just recently came out with it, and they put a lot of time studying and figuring out the best type of spool. So you can definitely go pick this up at Intercoastal Angler. I think if not now, within the next couple weeks. But the spool, it just is really well designed. It folds out like this and clamps in. I mean, it's a really good design for the spool. Same deal like Cameron was saying, that line sticks out like this. So the AFCO is what I've been fishing. I got a bunch of this from a buddy, and I've been fishing this predominantly for the past 6 or 7 months. But a little trick that I do like, and when I'm going through a lot of leader, a really good way to buy leader is through these actual spools of main line. So if you go to like a lot of tackle shops don't carry this because they don't want to sell this because it's way cheaper. But for like $11, you get, how many yards is it? 200 yards of fluorocarbon, Seaguar fluorocarbon, as opposed to a much shorter amount. And that's just it's super handy. I mean, I've had this spool for a year probably, and this is 15-pound. This is what I use trout fishing, is this 15-pound Seaguar Blue Label mainline. And so what that means is they're selling this as a spool to actually fill a whole rod up with fluorocarbon, or fill a whole reel up with fluorocarbon, but you can buy it and use it as leader spools. I mean, there's probably a slight difference, but I really think that most of it is just the simple fact of branding and marketing it differently and charging more for a smaller spool. So that's my thought. I could be wrong. Sorry if I made anybody mad by saying that. So, take it away.
Want to do rods?
Yeah, let's talk about rods.
All right. So what I like for I don't know. I guess spring and summer, but I use these all year, but mainly for redfish, false albacore, bonito. What else? I guess flounder,
Trout,
whatever.
flounder.
Trout. Yeah, trout. I like a little bit lighter rod, but if I catch one
You've
on
been
this
fishing
one,
the Shimano's for the trout, right? The
yeah,
GLX.
yeah, I have.
Sweet.
This is the SW3000. I think it's called the Spheros,
Sweet. Sweet.
and I think it's based off of what's a really nice reel that Shimano makes.
Stratic.
The Stratic.
Yeah.
It's based off the Stratic, but it's quite a bit cheaper. But I've got like 4 of these now, and they've all done really good on like all different types of fish. And I feel like the ultimate test is always false albacore.
Oh yeah.
And they've done really good with false albacore, so I can't complain too much about it. But I like in this for redfish mostly is this medium fast rod.
Okay.
This is 7 feet, so you can cast super far. It's fishing a lot of top waters, epoxy jigs, something you can throw super far. And then I usually pair it with a 3000. And yeah.
Yeah, I love the 3000 too.
This is a Fenwick Hmx, which are super awesome rods for the price.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, like the warranty with the Fenwick stuff is over the counter. So if you break a HMX or an HMG or an Elite Tech or World Class, which are all Fenwick rods, you can just carry it in, and if they believe that it was broken, not because you slammed it in your car door, they'll a lot of times replace it for you. Same with Star rods, and so I fish a lot of the Fenwick stuff now too. And this is the Fenwick Elite Tech. This is a medium light. I like this it's a little light for albies. I've caught albies on it this spring by default. But it's a great redfish rod. Good, slightly heavier bait trout rod. But if you're throwing really light stuff, I like to fish something a little bit lighter than this. As you see, there's an epoxy jig tied on it right now. I got a 3000 pin conflict 2 on here, which is a great reel. Excited to get my hands on some of the new pin clashes for the summer. The pin clash too, but what I love is a black reel. Like I would love just all black rods and all black reels and the black super slick braid. I will say I've hated this spider wire, 15-pound spider wire. I've never had so many wind knots in my entire life as with this spider wire. So I would not recommend that at all. Definitely get Power Pro.
I had these reels. I used to have a big problem with wind knots, and sometimes I don't think it's so much. I think sometimes it's definitely the rod or the line. I mean, but sometimes I think it's the reel, because I had one. I think it's a Pin makes it. I can't remember what it's called. Or no, it's a BG.
BG, okay.
Dude, so many times, like 10 to 15 times a day, getting wind knots on that with the same line.
It's so
the exact same line. And those reels I have had like maybe in 6 months, like 5 wind knots.
Yeah, I think there's probably like braid that pairs better with different spinning rods. I'm sure there is. I mean, it would be an expensive test to do to figure out what kind of braid worked best, because braid's not cheap. But I've had the most luck with Power Pro. Is that what you're fishing? Is Power Pro super slick?
Yeah, I have Power Pro on most of them, and then on a couple of my new setups, I have Power Pro Super Slick, and that stuff's awesome.
Right on. So this is my first time trying spider wire, and I'm not saying that there's a ton of different types. Types of broke the rod tip off in the fan. But there's a ton of different types of spider wire, and I need to maybe play around with some other ones, or maybe I put the line on myself. But I put the line on myself a lot of times on a lot of my rods and reels. I've never had this many wind knots. And this is my first time fishing the pin conflicts. And maybe it's the conflicts, but I don't think it is. Actually, no, I've fished the pin conflicts before with super slick on them, and I haven't had the issue. So I think it's the line. But yeah, 15-pound braid, is that what you usually like on your 3000?
Yeah, pretty much on everything. Unless I'm fishing like a 2000 reel or something like that, then I would knock it down to 10-pound braid. But yeah, on a 3000, I think 15-pound braid's usually what I would go with.
Yeah, I will say I'm the exact same way on that 15-pound braid, but I did order a spool of 40 pound this year for my medium heavy, my dock rods, so like Carolina rig rods. I'm going to fish 40 pound on it just because you're, bumping barnacles in the docks and a lot of times fishing out on the jetty for redfish as well. And you really don't need more than a medium heavy and a 3,000 or 4,000 for bull redfish on the jetty and bull redfish on the wrecks. I mean, those bull redfish are pretty unimpressive with how they fight. I mean, they bulldog you pretty good, but it's not. I mean, you could whoop them on a 2,000 and a medium light if you needed to. So
I would agree.
But yeah, so I think we've been over most of it. Can you think of anything else that we have in our tackle boxes this spring that we haven't talked about?
I mean, I almost brought some flies on, but the ones that I've been using that I really like, the last one I have is tied onto my rod.
Well, let's do that. Let's do that in a couple of days. Let's record another one just talking about the flies that we like from spring to summer.
Okay.
Open water flies that were thrown up in shallow water, maybe for belly crawlers and whatnot, and then flies for fishing in the grass.
Sounds good.
Sweet. Well, guys, we hope you all enjoyed this video. We just thought it'd be cool to just dive in and talk about what we had tied on right at the moment and what we've been fishing the past couple of days. And so hopefully that's helpful. And thanks for checking it out. We'll see you on the next one. Later.